Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about astrology and anger. Well, the first thing I want to get to, a fundamental thing about astrology and anger, if somebody has, I guess we could say, a plethora or strong concentration of planets, influences, say in Aries, Leo, Scorpio, and or Capricorn, there can be some propensity for anger, at least, average, if not more. Another thing, in a horoscope, we look at, if somebody has a lot, is inundated with conjunctions in their horoscope, and, conjunctions, as most of you know, are aspects which are, between, could be 8, within 8 to 10 degrees. 8 degrees when you have, in my opinion, this is, discretion, of course, it's when, if you have one or more personal planets involved, would be 10 degrees. And then if it's 8 degrees if you have both planets involved that are not personal planets. There's somebody I'd like to, talk about that I think, has a good example of some, I guess we could say, some anger attributes or qualities in his natal horoscope. And many of you may have heard of reputed serial killer David Berkowitz, who was the son of Sam, who went on that killing rampage in New York. And that was like around 76, 77, somewhere around there. And anyway, he has a number of conjunctions in his chart, and including, he has 8 total if we count the part of fortune, and he has 5 in the 8th house of death. He has in one conjunction which stood out to me in my mind is that he had Mars conjunct the part of fortune in the 8th house of death. You combine the anger, which is Mars, in the 8th house, which is connected with death. Part of fortune, obviously that was not a good not a good thing, and was a negative, a sign where there could have been a chance for, some kind of, volatile behavior, connected with that, position and placement or what have you. And interestingly enough, he also had Venus in Aries opposed his ascendant in Saturn. So I just wonder if maybe somehow lack of self-love or love in his life, played a, contributing factor in what, he did. Not that that justifies what he did, but I'm just wondering in his, mind or, demented mind at the time, did that play a role? If he also had his ascendant in Scorpio, Venus in Aries, and Pluto in Leo. So there were, I guess we could say 3 signs which are associated with anger in his horoscope. Now, another thing too, Mars is afflicted and say has predominantly negative aspects in the chart. This could show the proclivity for maybe possible violence behavior because, obviously then Mars is not finding the constructive many constructive outlets to be expressed. So that would be another example. Like, say, if you have, like, say, 6 negative aspects involving Mars, and you only had 1 or 2, positive aspects, say, sextile and or trine, then, you're talking about, a heavily, negatively aspected or afflicted Mars. Now, if somebody has an intercepted Mars, it could indicate possibly, suppressed anger. And the anger might not, really be finding any outlet to really, be channeled. And if it's repressed, obviously, when it can be unleashed, it could be overwhelming. Now, if somebody has, Mars in full in Cancer, and or Mars in detriment in Libra, accidental fall would be the 4th house, and its detriment by house would be the 7th. It's also fall, in Taurus, so we could say the accidental fall would be the 2nd house. I don't know if I would say that this is, even though they are, astrologically speaking, they're negative, positions for Mars. As far as, volatile, truculent behavior, I don't know if I'm going to say that is necessarily the case in these examples, but, it's still negative, and it shows that, the anger might not be finding, the right way to, always be going. Because especially you look at Mars in Cancer is obviously going to, more likely, to suppress and hold back, anger, and anger may be directed at family members in this, as far as Mars in Cancer goes, or Mars in the fourth house. Now, if you have, Mars making a conjunction, with, say, a real personal planet such as Sun, Moon, or even like a personal influence such as the ascendant, it could show the propensity for anger, and that Mars could really be impacting, the personality. And obviously, the closer proximity it is to any of those planets or that influence, say the ascendant, it's going to have a stronger impact. If you have a very close conjunction, say 0 to 3 degrees, that might impact the person more than, say, if it was something like 4 degrees, to 10 degrees. Also, Mars in Scorpio and Aries, though it's at home in those positions, can also show the proclivity for anger. I mean, Mars in Scorpio, obviously, it's explosive position. Mars in Aries, is obviously something that is, can be volatile as well. So even though they're at home there, as far as the anger, outlook on that, it's not, I don't always see that as good. Now, in someone's life, say they have the transiting Mars, conjunct their natal ascendant, Sun, or Moon, this could be a greater chance of increase of that person becoming angry or acrimonious in that period where it's making that conjunction. So even though somebody doesn't, necessarily have, an adversely aspected Mars, and Mars looks fairly good overall in their horoscope, people are still going to be susceptible to transits and aspects that are made from current planetary, positions at that time. Now, if transiting Mars is making a number of adverse aspects to a person's horoscope all at once, then that could, obviously have effect in possible, angry situations. And not necessarily always, I don't think, coming from that person itself. A person might be involved in a volatile situation that might be directed at him or her. So I don't know, if it's always going to mean that it's coming from that particular person, that where the aspect makes, but it could also be just the simple fact that the person might get involved in a situation that has, some, angry, I guess, overtones, or, angry, where there's anger involved in it. Also, if you have, your progressed Mars, is making a contact, conjunction with your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, that could be, impact some kind of, anger situation at that particular, point in time. There might be combative situations with people or something. Now, conversely, if you have transiting Sun, Moon, conjunct natal Mars, that could increase the proclivity for anger as well, I believe. So you could, and also, even if you have progressed Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, could conjunct your natal Mars, could have a similar impact. Now, I want to give an example of a, who I believe more likely than not probably killed someone, but he wasn't, it wasn't, proven in the court of law, and he was acquitted. But I still feel I'm strongly suspicious he committed this murder. I'm going to talk about O.J. Simpson. Now, he has two planets, Ascendant in Leo and Jupiter in Scorpio, in negative, I guess we could say it's a kind of angry, angry positions or signs. Counting his north node, he has 4 conjunctions in his chart, which obviously can show some friction and anger potential there. His progressed Mars conjuncted his natal Venus and conjuncted his natal Sun on June 12, 1994, when Nicole Brown Simpson was murdered. I believe when he I believe he did, like I said before, though, I want to emphasize again, that it wasn't proven in the court of law. Transiting Mars at that time also conjuncted his 10th house of notoriety, its square natal Saturn, and Pluto and the Ascendant, and it made a long inconjunction to his natal Neptune. It opposed Jupiter in his 4th house of home and family. transiting Pluto was in his fourth house home and family. Pluto can be associated with death, and right in that fourth house of home and family. It's just terrible that it wasn't, this very likely this death came from him, and it wasn't because some stranger committed the crime. More likely than not, it was O.J. Simpson. Sad but true. And obviously, his chart, we could see where not only there was some potential for violence already in his natal chart, but because of those progressions and the transiting planets, obviously it even increased that for violence on that particular day. So anyway, well, people, that is it for my YouTube astrological segment about astrology and anger. And tune in next time, where I will be continuing my aspects segment series, and I will be dissertating and talking about Mercury sextile and trine the midheaven in a natal horoscope. And until next time, people, stay well.